Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Are we live, Benny?
Yes, ma'am. You are, as always.
I feel alive.
Good. You should.
I feel alive. I'm alive. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show, Talk Radio to Thrive by. Near-death experience and deathbed visions, right? Like Mark Anthony. Okay, so here's the deal. Mark, I tried to figure out when Mark and I first met, and I have some old school pictures of him. I think, David, I sent them to you in a clip. They're not old school. They're just pictures when Mark and I were in a studio together. And I think it was one of the first time we met. I think we even have a picture of Rocky. I'm not 100% sure. But once upon a time, you think about who are the people that you meet in life, like Linda. Right, Benny? My best friend, Linda. And you, Benny, 17 years with Benny. And you somehow get the sense, I kind of know this. This is like familiar. Like somehow you connect with somebody. And I remember this, Benny, and you probably don't know this, but I'm just going to share it. And so you go along the way and you just know there is a thing. No. I am not talking about like a sexual thing. That's not it. I mean, you could do that too. You can have that. But no, I'm not talking about that. But there's a thing, there's an energy and a vibe. And you all know this. You know that you've met people, you just know something about them. You just know something is jiving or clicking. Now, Benny knows Pete Siegel, who passed away. And I think Pete Siegel is responsible for what Mark and I are going to talk about today. Because Pete and I were going to do a show together. And I rarely do shows with another person where I say, we're going to like do our own show, separate branding, we're going to do it. But Pete and I were going to do it. And then suddenly in December, right around my birthday, very unexpectedly, Pete Siegel passes away. And I just thought, is that a sign? Is that like a thing? Is it a sign? And then along comes Mark, the psychic lawyer, AKA the psychic explorer. And out of this, we're thinking, dang, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And Linda, you would make a good lawyer. I wonder what Mark Anthony, let's have him on a show. Author, award-winning, critically acclaimed bestseller of Never Letting Go. He is on the top list of just about everybody that wants to interview Mark. And he has a fantastic sidekick, Rocky. I got sidekick, Linda. He got the Rocky. I got the Linda. World renowned, 4th generation psychic medium, right? And what does he do? He communicates with spirits. So I think like when we were doing the show, Pete Siegel, Benny, you know Pete, right?
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, sure.
Remember Pete? Oh my God. What a tough, this guy was like, listen, just because you're Dr. Pat, you ain't all that. This was Pete. So we were going to do like this show. Okay. But that didn't happen. So anyway, on with my Mark. And we're just multiple times, by the way. And he's been on ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, Fox, the whole deal. Sirius Satellite, television appearances, looks really good on video. You're seeing him right here somewhere in a minute. This is why, and so we go do the show and we're just having a great time. And somewhere out of the blue comes a thing, like a thing. Like all of a sudden I'm on with Mark and He's doing readings, and I decide I'm going to put my 2 cents in. Now, if you have a world-renowned psychic medium on your show, you either have lost your mind by giving your 2 cents to people that call in, or somebody is channeling through you to do it. I'm not going to answer that because I'm not the psychic medium. Mark is. But today you're going to hear about how perhaps Pete Siegel got channeled in. I love you, Pete. I'm hoping we can get a clip of Pete just to play so Mark can get the vibe of Pete. Somehow came in, and I found myself with this fantastic person I had just about met, who's got the phones off the hook, and he's got the readings, and he's spot on. And I say something like, hey, Mary, do you mind if I just jump in here? Now, most people would have got me during the break and said, WTF, what are you doing? What are you doing? I am the psychic medium. What are you doing? But that's not what happened. So today's show is about taking you on a journey of connection, because that's what we need now. We are in a time where we are at the most critical places in our lives to learn how to connect and reconnect again. It is a longing. It is a passion. It is something that's going on. But with Mark, and you talk about near-death experience and deathbed visions, what happens when we are being given the messages? I'm just saying to folks, I'm going to tell you up front, this is a 2-hour venue because we've got a lot to talk about to help you. The next hour, and you can, I have learned never to stop our listeners, Benny. I have learned never to do that. You're going to be able to interact with us on social media and ask questions. You're also going to be able to call in the show. We're not going to do 2 hours of readings because we've got a lot to talk about today. But in the end, you're going to hear what happens when two people connect, listen to the visions, hear things, see things, do things. What happens if they decide to take action? But this is what Mark does. You know, this is him, the psychic lawyer. This is the person that balances multiple professions that you might think are on opposite ends of the scale, but maybe not. But how about these near-death experiences? What are they? Do you think perhaps you may have had it but don't know it? You know, what about the time that I blacked out and just completely fell and got taken to the emergency? And people were like, where is she? Where'd she go? Today, fasten your seatbelt and get ready for the quantum psychic medium Dr. Pat ride of your life. Mark, great to have you.
Thank you, Pat. And, you know, it's so funny what you were saying about how we met. And you and I don't believe in coincidences. We believe in synchronicity. And we were supposed to meet when we were supposed to meet. And you brought up such a fascinating point. You know, you feel that Pete may have maneuvered this. And I've conducted well over 15,000 readings in my life, which means, and during readings, usually multiple spirits come through. So I've talked to, on the conservative side, about 100,000 spirits plus in my life. And they all indicate that not only is there no such thing as a coincidence, but that they constantly are sending us subtle messages and guidance. And they can certainly, they're not here to control us, but they can certainly guide us to a decision or to a place. So I think that you're right on the money when you said that Pete, because, you know, I'm trying to remember how I first got on your show. It just sort of happened, you know, it just happened and we clicked. So it is very important for people to understand that spirits are an ever-present part of our life, and they can influence or intervene, and it's never for the negative. It's always for the positive.
Hey, Pat, it looks like you're muted there.
I'm just communicating with the other side for a
Good
moment,
call.
and I didn't want. I'm just talking to Pete for a minute here, and I just didn't want to repeat what he said. Basically, that Mark is better looking than he is. But in the that is, I got to tell you that's a Pete. Benny will tell you that is something Pete would say. But this is an extraordinary time, Mark. And this is why this is such an important conversation. There's such a longing to connect now.
Yes.
There's such a longing. I was talking to someone the other day who lost, I lost 2 people to COVID that I knew that were close to me. And they got to understand more about the deathbed visions, right?
Yes.
They got to understand it. Now, what they didn't get was the kind of closeness that we're used to getting when somebody is making a transition, somebody's passing. But even with that, these people that absorb this, and this is my question to you, these people that absorb this, they walked away with a new energy in their step. They didn't walk away like, I am so sad, I'm grieving. They walked away and became compelled to do ... I want to ask you about this because there are people that want to communicate messages, but sometimes we're so deep in our grief, we can't hear it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, first, it's important to understand deathbed visions. This is a field of study in near-death experience and survival of consciousness. What happens is when somebody is actively dying, they're in the process of dying, they will oftentimes start saying, oh, look, there's cousin John and there's my grandfather, and they'll start talking about people that are connected to them who passed, loved ones who passed. And from the scientists who are studying them, it does not appear to be a hallucination. It appears to be quite a real experience. Now, deathbed visions expand even further into the realm of what we now call shared death experiences, an SDE. We've all heard about an NDE, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But a shared death experience, what's going on, Pat? And I loved it earlier when you said, people are going to have the quantum ride of their life with the psychic lawyer and Dr. Pat, because the other side is a frequency that runs parallel to ours. Think of our world as AM radio. We live in AM, because we're energy, we have vibration, we have frequency, and the other side is FM radio, and it moves at a much more rapid frequency modulation versus amplitude modulation. And there are times when the two frequencies overlap, we get a frequency match. And that's the basis for what a deathbed vision is, a shared death experience, a near-death experience, and spirit communication. So what's happening is when somebody is dying, the energy in their brain, which you can call consciousness, a soul, or a spirit, that energy is beginning to leave the brain. In other words, it's creating a higher frequency. Spirits are aware of this. They bring their frequency down, and that's why people who are in the active process of dying can see loved ones in spirit. Now, that's a deathbed vision. When there are bystanders, be they loved ones, family members, and close friends, or hospice workers, healthcare workers, people in close proximity, they get caught up in this energetic frequency. And so the energy of the spirits get interfaces with the energy of people's electrical fields coming from their brain. And so when somebody dies, then they can actually, for a few seconds, experience what the dying person is seeing as they are leaving their body and going to the other side. I myself have been at a number of people's bedsides when they're dying, and I have seen a light come up out of their body, and other people who are not mediums have said, what was that light? You can feel dizzy, disoriented, or like you're being lifted up off your feet. That's the sense of the euphoria of connecting with the other side. Sometimes people will see the spirits that are greeting the person transitioning. Sometimes there's beautiful music. And one of the most fascinating phenomena associated with this is when bystanders get caught up in the life review, the proverbial "my life flashed before my eyes." I consider it a great honor and a privilege to have been able to experience pretty much all of those phenomenon when I've been present, because family members, some families will call me to be there when somebody is transitioning. So this is a very real thing. It's based on physics, based on quantum physics. It's been documented for centuries, and now we're actually beginning to understand what this is. And, Pat, I think that this brings a lot of hope and a lot of joy, because for people who aren't mediums, people who had no idea anything like this is possible, all of a sudden they get a glimpse of the next dimension. And I think that's just amazing.
I love the glimpse idea. Let's talk about the glimpse. I think we are getting glimpses all the time, Mark.
Yes.
I think that we are getting glimpses. Glimpse is a really good word. I think some people get glimpses by glimpse of hearing or some. We get. I like to call them almost like a movie trailer.
Yes.
Right? Like a trailer.
That's
now,
a great,
yeah. It doesn't have to be a 3-minute trailer. No, but it's a trailer. I want to ask you this because you work with a lot of people. My sense is we get it. We either believe it or don't believe it. We either do something about it or don't do something about it. And I want to ask you, what's the dividing line between, I'm not kidding about the Pete.
Sure.
What other person would have given us the idea for what we're about to share today, right? But
Right.
the guy that was supposed to do it, just for a minute. And then, there are other things, these glimpses, these reviews. So here's what I want to ask you. Can we continue to get the glimpse? What I mean is there's that moment, right? There's the moment where Tim just passed. Right. There's that moment. But then there's the reflection on Tim coming back.
Right.
Not like over obsessively, but I want to talk to you about that because I think people that visit her. Can you talk about that energy and the underpinnings for it?
Oh, sure. Let me tell you, I got a lot to say on this topic.
I know.
I've written about it in both my books, and it's in my upcoming book. Think of everyone that you know, okay, both on this side and the other side, as you're connected to them. And think of a spider web. Let's take the spider out of it because, but think of a 3-dimensional spider web that connects you with all your loved ones, both on this side and the other side, and that we're all energetically interconnected. Now, we've all heard this, and a lot of people say, oh, that's a bunch of new age fluff. Although quantum physics shows us that everything's made of molecules, which are made of atoms, which are made of electrons, protons, and neutrons, and those in turn are made of a smaller subatomic particle known as quanta, and that everything in existence is electromagnetic energy on its most basic level. So therefore, when all the great spiritual teachers are telling us that we're all brothers and sisters and we're all interconnected, the Hawaiians call it mana. Everything, a rock, a palm tree, you, me, the sun, the ocean, all has its own energy signature. Well, guess what? That's true. And so we're all energetically linked. Now, before we get to the other side, think about how many of the listeners are parents. And suddenly you have that feeling that, oh my God, something happened to my child. And then you get the phone call that, Susie was injured on the playground or somebody was in a car accident or God forbid, somebody passed. Do you think that's just a coincidence? It's because we're energetically connected with that spider web, that frequency link. And so when a loved one dies, they transition to this higher frequency, and then the link between us and them is actually stronger. Reason being is they're no longer vibrating at our slower AM radio existence. They're on this higher FM existence. And so let's say that you're grieving very heavily for someone that you love. You're emitting a wave of frequency along that spider web. And the reason that I use the analogy of a spider web is that how do spiders know that something hit their web? They feel the vibration, something hits it, and then they go and, do what they do. And so let's say you're grieving someone very heavily, and then that will draw the spirit to you, and you can have a contact experience there. However, frequency, and I call these frequency beacons, and frequency beacons work both ways. How many of the listeners here have felt motivated to, out of the blue, turn on the radio, usually when you're driving, and there's that song that touches your heart? Now, do you think that you just turned on the radio at that time and you hear the song that makes you think of the loved one that you were thinking of? Or what if you're in a room and all of a sudden you smell a familiar fragrance, maybe your mom's perfume, and there's no source for it? What if you look in a mirror and you catch a glimpse for a second of a loved one? What if you have a dream and your loved one comes and talks to you, but it isn't like a regular dream? It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it is a very coherent experience. These are all examples of what you're discussing and bringing up, Dr. Pat. These are all frequency beacons. These are all glimpses of connecting with the higher frequency that we call the other side.
And, let's talk about this. Beth is got a question for us from our Facebook. For those of you out there, we are live streaming on Facebook.com at Transformation Talk Radio, and Beth has got a great question. And it's this one: Our near-death experience and out-of-body experience, are they one and the same?
Yes and no. An out-of-body experience occurs when somebody's perfectly healthy and they discipline themselves through meditation. They've been also called an astral projection. Basically, what you're doing is you're taking your consciousness, your brain, and you're projecting its perception beyond the physical. Certainly, we know that the military, not just the US, but the Russian, British, French, the Chinese, North Korean, Australian militaries have been using remote viewers for years. And a remote viewer is, a remote viewing is a psychic ability where you take your consciousness and you project it somewhere else to basically see what's happening in different locations. And with an astral projection / out-of-body experience, that's essentially what you're doing. Now, a near-death experience, think of, you're dying. Okay, so you can die on an operating table, you can die from drowning. I mean, there's no one recipe for what it takes to have a near-death experience. My father had 2 of them. My mother had a near-death experience, and I had a near-death experience. And in all of our cases, we were this close, or in my case, I flatlined. I mean, I was dead. I mean, they hit me with defibrillator paddles and brought me back. And so with a near-death experience, it's like you're tied to a rubber band and you get this far and then you get pulled back, ergo near-death experience. A death experience is you keep going. So the frequency that I was talking about, the zone between the other side dimension and our dimension, that's where near-death experiences, shared death experiences, deathbed visions, and out-of-body experiences occur. It's in the transitional zone, if you will, between our frequency of the material world and the other frequency, the higher frequency of the afterlife dimension.
Yeah. And thank you, Beth, for that question. David is connecting with all of you. We are connecting all of you on Facebook as well. Another question that comes in, Mark, and it really talks to this, our listener calls it slipping in and out. But I think it really has to do with what I said to you before. I'm sitting on a chair And the next thing I know, I'm not at a chair. And the only thing I remember is waking up in the emergency in the hospital. Now, I don't know what that was. I don't know why it happened. But I will tell you this, I woke up differently. And let me just be very clear on how differently I woke up. I was in a very tough place in my life at the time, just finished school, was supposed to be, I don't know, some big shot consultant doing something in corporate America. And I couldn't. I was so depressed. I mean, I just had learned too much. And I was sitting in my sort of study room at the time, Green Lake, and I had my computer there. And I was just looking, searching for parts of myself, right? Whether it was on the internet, I was doing something that, and the next thing I remember, I'm in the hospital. Right. Like 911 came, blah, 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 hospital, a whole bunch of tests, things hooked up to me, my brain, everything. Now, I don't know what that is, but when I got home, I wasn't the same. I had a sense of clarity and purpose, but I didn't have the answers. Can you talk about how those things happen, albeit perhaps not a near-death experience, but perhaps somebody on the other side trying to get our attention? So I want to talk about this because sometimes things happen where we change, right? I'm not talking about I went from gluten to not gluten, although that could happen. I'm talking about you fundamentally don't feel like the same person. And everything is crystallized in a new perspective.
You know, that's really fascinating what you're bringing up, because in the traditional sense, a near-death experience is separating from the body, feeling the floating sensation, going through the tunnel into the light, meeting deceased loved ones, and which is just an amazing account as it is. But there are a lot of people that I've encountered in my research on near-death experiences that explain exactly what you just did. They said, 1 minute they're there, next minute they're waking up in the hospital, getting revived somehow, and they didn't go see the angels, the bunnies, and all the happy stuff, but they're profoundly changed. And this isn't the first time this has been documented in history. In fact, there was a man, Giovanni di Pietro di Benedetto. He was a young nobleman in medieval Italy, and he was real full of himself, and he joined his city-states army, and he wanted to go out and conquer people and amass a fortune. And he was taken a prisoner of war, and he was held in a dungeon in the city of Pisa for almost a year. And he got really, really sick, and he went into a coma-like state. And when he came out of it, everything was changed. And we now know this man as St. Francis of Assisi.
Right.
Okay. So he went from being this, elitist, noble, totally material possession obsessed person to the very epitome of selflessness, compassion, and charity. So this phenomenon has been recorded for years. I think based on the people that I've talked to, and now yourself, is that you did have a near-death experience, and while you may not have an active recollection of it, it's the after effects. Because it's nice to go into the light and to see the beautiful images. I mean, that's what happened with myself and my parents during their NDEs. But it is truly the after effects that really matter. Because did it change you? Did it enhance your intuitive abilities? Did it make you more compassionate? Because most people that return from an NDE, I'd say pretty much all of them, don't come back with a lust for materialism and base level things. That's not what it is. And what's going on here is your consciousness, your soul, is connecting with the infinite. And all of a sudden, you come back with the memory that all of these material possessions and things here are simply an illusion. I mean, they exist in that they're real, but that's not what is really important. And also there's a sense of interconnectedness with everything. And that gets back to what I was talking about before with quantum physics, because when people have the NDEs, they all return with a sense of interconnectedness.
I want to talk about this when we come back from break, because were you just looking up, talking to my mama right there? Mama,
I think she said hi.
That's
something
my
about
stepmom.
Jelly beans. Something about the licorice jelly beans.
That is my stepmom. How did I know that? Okay. So when we come back, here's what it is. I'm going to share what happened after that caused most of the people that know me to think I lost my mind. Number one. My partner at the time to be like, oh, you're crazy. Yeah. You know, this is not what I signed up for. What are you doing? And then number three, a knowing about something that you have no experience at all with how to orchestrate. How do you get that? When we come back, we're going to talk about that. And for those of you, as I said, David's over there chatting with you on Facebook. Get your questions up there. We are going to be taking callers in the next hour. Mark Anthony is with us for both of them. We've got lots of cool things to share with you. But have you at any point had a moment where you either woke up from sleep or had a waking up and knew? You just knew. You knew, I'm not cooking dinner for this guy anymore. I'm just saying, but that doesn't have to be it. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, I just want to let everybody know. And by the way, we've got questions coming in. Thank you, David, for popping them in there. We are going to be taking your calls in the next hour. Just want to reiterate that Mark is going to be here for this hour and the next. But we're setting the stage because Mark is connecting with all of you out there about what it is you're experiencing. And one of the things that, we're talking about is, what if somebody has passed? Maybe 2 decades ago. What is it that allows those messages to come in even afterwards? And do you have to have a near-death experience to be guided? So we've got a lot we're unpacking here today. Before we go back, can you tell people how they can find out more about you, Mark? Tell us about the books, anything you want to talk about.
Absolutely. Please go to my website, evidenceofeternity.com, which is the same as my last book, evidenceofeternity.com. And you can sign up for a phone reading with me. And if you mention Dr. Pat or Transformation Talk Radio, you'll qualify for a reduced fee reading. Also, please sign up for my newsletter, and through my website, evidenceofeternity.com, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's all there. And you can order my books because it'll hyperlink you to Amazon. So, evidenceofeternity.com, and you can find out about the work that I do and also my upcoming radio appearances, which will include Dr. Pat.
Oh, we're going to share that in the next hour, right?
Yes.
Well, it's exciting because the reason I kind of gave the backdrop of the Pete Siegel thing is because it's actually turned into a thing. And this really is about the questions that we're probing now. But before I go back to that, I want to go to Donna and just make sure we get something up here for Donna. She put the question in the chat, Mark, if you want to take a look at it too. A couple of days after losing my husband, I had a dream where I was in a hospital room while the doctors tried to start his heart. I was unseen and was feeling everything that he was experiencing. Panic, resolve, and the tremendous love. As each emotion came over me, I drifted farther away from the room. I woke up suddenly and had the most overwhelming sense of peace. That dream was a great comfort to me, as I was grieving his passing. Question from Donna. Mark, has my husband who passed away, I think it's Guillermo or Guillermo, have a message for me?
Well, certainly the contact that his spirit made with her when he was transitioning was a big part of the message, is that life is everlasting and that he's at peace. He's also, gosh, sometimes spirits give me messages that I have to take a pause, but he keeps showing, conveying that she's really hitting the chocolate and the sugar a bit too much. So he's not being critical, but he's saying that what's happening is in your grief, you have this craving for sugar, and that this is actually beginning to affect your health. Not only can it lead to putting on weight, but sugar compromises your immune system, which these days is not good. It fuels cancer and it causes a lot of other issues. So he's telling you, you are my sweet, so you need to lay off the sweets. And that's what the message is.
Wow. You could be talking to me. So let's talk about, I'm going to go back to what I said before, because this again is related to Donna's question too, is sometimes we get the guidance, and other times when we don't follow the guidance, I'm just going to say don't follow the guidance because this is my language to explain it. We may get stronger guidance. And then when we start to doubt the guidance, and this is really what happened to me. I mean, I came out of that experience from the hospital. I went through a series of 6 months of electro tests to my brain. Nobody could figure the deal out, right? They just tested my brain. They did a whole bunch of, I was hooked up to all sorts of things, right? And then the wrong phone number, then the show. And I stepped into this without knowing anything about anything, but I knew that I had to bring a different message to the world, a positive message. And here it was. After doing that and paying lots of money for airtime, people in my world were like, oh my God, you went to school for 10 years, so you could pay like tens of thousands of dollars to do what? And doubt came in. No, I'm not kidding. They're like, what are you doing? This is not like a job. And doubt came in. And I remember being on the verge of discontinuing, right? That's the energy I had. April 1st, 2004, 3 months after starting on KKNW, 6 months after my first show, Bonnie Barnard and I are giving a workshop on how to live your greatest dream. At the end of the workshop, my right ankle was the size of a soccer ball. I had a mystery disease instantaneously, Mark, instantaneously, April Fool's Day of 2004. And the bottom line is, couldn't take a regular job if my life depended on it. So does spirit operate in those ways, or is that just me conjuring up some cockamamie story?
What do you feel?
I feel I was getting ready to take a job with Land O'Lakes.
Well, the reason that I asked what do you feel is in spirit communication, how it hits you, as soon as it hits you, go with what you feel, because that's the answer. What happens all too often is I call this the no syndrome. It's like when I'm doing a reading for somebody and I say, I'm getting this and this, does that make sense? No. And they start shooting everything down. You're creating a negative energy barrier and backing, and the spirits will back off. Another aspect of the no syndrome is hyperanalyzing the experience. You know, it's like, well, that couldn't have really happened. It must be in my imagination of this. And that too creates a barrier. And so this ties into your question of, well, will they keep repeating the message and making it more complicated? So if your thought was, it really feels like I was being spiritually guided not to take that job, then that's what the answer is. Because I see this happen all the time. Spirit communication is a very subtle thing. And that, yes, we all want the beam of light with the graphics. I call it the Michelangelo painting, with the angels playing harps and the good red wine and all that. And sometimes it happens, but that's not usually the way it does. It is that it's a knowing, and you knew in the core of your being that going in that direction was the wrong one. People ask me all the time, well, don't you miss the practice of law? And I am grateful to have had the experience I did in law. I've tried something like 300 jury trials. I've done everything from misdemeanors to murder trials, complex civil litigation. I was in the trenches. I did it. And it gave me a background that to me is helping me now, particularly with the importance of evidence from the other side. And for me, I was driving back from court. This is about 2 weeks after my mother died. She was also a medium. We were very close. I was very depressed. And I just felt I needed to pull over. So I pulled over at this little strip mall, and I was sitting there in my car by myself, and this flash of light went off. And I'm not sure if it was in my head or in the car itself, because I immediately turned and looked at the passenger seat, and there was the silhouette of my mother in this silver white light, and her voice filled my head. And she said, Mark, you've been given the gift of mediumship so that you would not be crushed by grief, but now you must help those who are suffering with theirs. And all of a sudden, the energy let me go. Within a year, not only was I out of the practice of law on a daily basis, but I had a book that was about spirit communication. It was a bestseller. And the next thing I know, I'm on the Dr. Pat show and all these TV shows. And so, for me, the intervention was a bit more blatant. It also has to do with the fact that I'm a medium and I tune in right away. But for you and for other people who've had those subtle experiences, they're just as powerful. That's why you got to be careful not to overanalyze it. What does it feel? Feel first, think later, and then you'll have your answer when it comes to spirit communication.
How has your life experiences, Mark? And we're going to talk more about you in the next hour when we come on, because, I always get asked, like, why are you doing this? Are you, how did this even happen? You're not a journalist, you're not a this, you're not a that. And people are always fascinated. And I used to not know what to say. I do now. But in your case, here you are, near-death experience, deathbed vision, psychic medium Mark. And, I think people often wonder, what did you have to go through to get this pathway for your life?
Well, certainly being born into a family where this appears to be a recessive genetic trait had a lot to do with it, because I was 3.5. I started seeing dead people and talking to my invisible friends, and mom and dad could see them too. So that's, they're like, I remember, I have a very, very vivid recollection of the, starting when I was about 2.5, which I'm told is unusual, but for me, it's just the way it was. But I remember when I started talking to the spirits, and my dad was like, "Oh God, he's got it," and my mother goes, "Oh God, he's got it." She thought it was cool. My dad was concerned because his sister, who was also a medium, was treated horribly. Was treated very, very horribly. In fact, her husband. The reason I'm telling this is all part of it. My Aunt Marjorie was a very gifted psychic medium, and she was married to this guy who was a fundamentalist, Christian. And I use the word Christian very lightly about him. And one day he was supposed to go to work. He worked at a steel plant in Pennsylvania. And Marjorie said, "You're not going to work today." And she had a terrible feeling. She had this sick feeling in her stomach, wouldn't let him go. And he says, "Oh, fine." Well, he worked in a machine shop there, and that day a crane was lifting thousands of pounds of steel beams, and the cable snapped, and it crushed the machine shop and killed everybody in it. Now, if he'd been at work, there'd been a 99.9% chance he would have been in that machine shop. he had her involuntarily committed to a mental institution, and literally guys in white jackets came, forced her into a straitjacket, because this is how they did things back there. And she was subjected.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they subjected her to electroshock therapy and cold water therapy, where they dunk her in icy water, then they go shock her brain for a period of 6 months. And after that, she never saw spirits again. They essentially, they damaged her brain. And when my abilities started surfacing, the reason my dad was concerned is because I remember he sat me down because he saw I was scared, and he goes, "Oh, stop it, Mark, don't talk about it." And I was a little kid. And he said, "Mark," he goes, "I'm not trying to scare you." He said, "You can talk about this to your mother and I, but you can't talk about this to people outside of the family, because they won't understand. And people who see things that other people don't get taken away." So from day one, I realized that I had to kind of, keep this to myself, but my whole life went in this direction. And as I got older, I wanted to go into the clergy, which is not unusual for mediums. We're drawn to the spiritual. And I thought that'd be too limiting.
I know. I want to be a nun.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And excuse me. Sorry about that. So, but I always liked public speaking. I always liked teaching. And I thought maybe I'd end up as a professor, but instead I was drawn to law. The joke I like to make is I didn't go into the clergy because there's too many rules and regulations. So I went into the legal profession instead. And it was where I needed to be. I needed to learn the importance of evidence, of being able to explain my position. And, a lot of people, and I have to put up with snarky comments and nasty things on social media. And you know what? If people, if hate is your thing, I feel sorry for you and I forgive you. But the truth of the matter is, as a lawyer and as a medium, evidence is key. Lawyers certainly need evidence to prove their case. As a medium, I'm an evidential medium, and I produce facts and evidence. So it feels to me that my entire life journey has, in a sense, been preordained and guided by spiritual influences, because I'm supposed to be right here, right now, doing what I'm doing to help people.
Yeah. I mean, this is really what we're going to continue to talk about when we come back in the next hour. And we're going to take people's calls, because this has been an interesting time with COVID-19. And I hear stories from our listeners and from our clients about, I have had during this time, and I hear this from moms that have to work and are taking care of the kids and the online class, but it's almost like what they're saying is, I got to pause just long enough to hear my heart. And I found that so fascinating. I got to pause long enough to hear my heart. That's what getting sick did for me. I had to pause long enough to hear my heart. And then the angel lady told me to go look up T3, find a doctor that gave T3. I didn't need T3, but I needed Dr. Darvish, who I found. So when we come back, this is part 2 of how do you get help with the energies that are now wide open for you. There are energies that are, do this, do that, take this, don't do this, bring this in, cook chicken, whatever it is, no sugar, whatever it is. How do you make sense of it? And this is your turn to connect with Mark and get some in-depth help. When we come back, also got a little bit of an announcement. Mark, website, how do people find out about you and what you're up to?
evidenceofeternity.com, just like my book, Evidence of Eternity. And for listeners of Dr. Pat, you got to put Dr. Pat when you apply for a phone reading. You'll be qualified for a reduction in the fee for a session with me.
And, we're getting ready for the holidays. And I'm telling you, if what I'm hearing is, people are really longing for some help and support now. Yeah. And they are not even able to contemplate this holiday season. You know, they're not even able to think. I'm like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do for my kid who wants to dress up again as Wonder Woman. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for Halloween. Yeah. When we come back, answers, questions, and spirit connections. Mark Anthony, Dr. Pat, we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back for part 2. If you've tuned into the last hour, we're talking about near-death experience and deathbed visions with Mark Anthony today. Have you had a near-death experience? Do you know what a near-death experience is like? If you are on Facebook, you could go to facebook.com Transformation Talk Radio. We're live streaming. We're taking questions during this hour, both over on Facebook and here live at 1-800-930-2819. And so we're going to bring callers in between our conversations. So I just want people to know that while you are waiting on our caller number, you'll be able to hear the show. So you're not going to miss anything. And I believe we may have a couple of people waiting. We have 3 people waiting: Cynthia, Barbara, and Veronica. Chicago, Edmonds, and New York, and we will get to you in a minute. As a continuation of what we said, I want to just put the cap on it. You know, it's like some people say it's the cherry on the whipped cream. Some people say I don't need the cherry; it's just the whipped cream. And if you're like me, just give me a half a gallon of ice cream. That makes it for me. That's me. But why talk about this? Why bring in Pete? Why talk about Pete? Why talk about us meeting? Why are we talking about it if there isn't a message coming that should be followed by an action or a change of perspective or something? And so I want to start out with finishing that story. For those of you that missed it during the first hour, Mark and I were talking about how we first met. And I think David has some pictures of that in the studio. But one thing led to another. And out of that conversation came a message. And so do you remember how it popped up? I don't remember the details of it, but something popped up. And I think it was like, we should do a show. Right?
Yeah. What had happened is I'd been on your show a number of times. And then when I was on tour in Seattle, I think I've been there like 3 or 4 times. And it was always nice being in studio with you and the whole team, the KKNW team and Transformation Talk Radio team. And people would call in and I'd do a reading, and then you'd say, well, it looks to me like this message, and you would start guiding them and counseling them on what they needed to get out of that message. And it flowed so well. And it wasn't just one show that this happened. It was every time we were on air together. And we just started saying, we need to do something with this. And what I've always found fascinating is, yes, Dr. Pat, you're a world-renowned psychologist, and you've got the training, the credentials, the experience, but you also have that intuitive insight, and it just complements the messages from spirits that I'm getting. And, so many of the callers said, wow, I got this double shot of healing. I got a message from my loved one in spirit, and then this guidance and life coaching from Dr. Pat. And so it just seemed like that was once again a synchronistic moment.
Yeah. And what I love about this is that the question always comes up, Mark, a lot of times. I'm sure you get this, right? Why now? Why now? Like, really? Why now? Don't you have enough to do? And, you could hear the echo of those folks. Then there are other folks like Rocky and Linda and Jessica. And of course this is, The world we're living in today, where the Lone Ranger works a lot of the time, but sometimes when two or more are gathered, it's like bingo. Oh, there's Doris again. It's like bingo. And why is that? Because if I'm going to listen to something, I'm going to do something, right? So if I hear at age 23, and I'm walking down the hall with the Linda at the time at Bell Labs, and I'm 23, barely graduated high school, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, couldn't put a sentence together, just learned how to not stutter, and boom, I say to Linda, I'm gonna get a PhD. My Linda, knew her back there, 72. I'm gonna get a PhD, and Linda's, absolutely, you're gonna get a PhD. And then I'm like, what exactly is a PhD? Now, why would I get that message? Well, number one, all of the people I delivered mail to in the phone company, they were the best, the funnest people. Arno Penzias, the Big Bang guy, taught me how to play ping pong. They had these initials at the end of their name. And I thought, oh, PhD meant F-U-N.
Yeah, that sounds like grad school. It's like when I went to law school, I thought, because I had a lot of fun in college. I thought, 3 more years. No.
But I didn't get to it right away. I mean, as a matter of fact, all I wanted to do was go party in New York, drink a lot, dance to Donna Summer, show up at work right from New York, do a job that could allow me to party more, dance to Donna Summer, and have a great time. So that's where I was. But I never lost that. And 13 years to get an undergraduate degree. Never really quite understood it. And then when the moment came, Mark, where I had studied for 10 years, the consequences of broken promises, and I couldn't do what the world said I should do with that degree, it immobilized me. And today, what we're talking about is messages. What do I do? And that's why you and I are coming together, because it's a message and an action. It's a message and an action. And that's why we're going to be doing the show, The Psychic and the Doc.
Absolutely. And The Psychic and the Doc is a show that Dr. Pat and I are going to be launching very soon. And it also shows the micro and the macro aspects of spirit communication. Micro in that a message from a spirit can be very personalized for one person and help lead them on the road to healing. The macro, because not just the person receiving it, but other listeners can learn from that message as well. And what we found is that this synergy between Dr. Pat's intuitive insights coupled with her extensive background in counseling and her expertise in life coaching, coupled with my ability to communicate with spirits and my background as an attorney, every time we were working together for a caller, it really, really was beneficial for that person. And it wasn't just like we were saying, it wasn't just on one episode. It was on, gosh, it had to be at least a half a dozen or more. And so that we felt that the time was now. And I like what you said, Dr. Pat, says, why now? And as soon as you said that, it made me think of my favorite quote from the late, great John Lewis. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? And I think he said it best. The time for this is now, particularly in this era of COVID and the instability in our country. And it's not just our country. I mean, Europe's getting hit with a second wave of COVID right now. There's discord throughout the whole planet. And certainly, we're not going to save the world, but we can certainly affect our corner of it. And, call me an incurable optimist, but I believe that the ripple effect, if we start helping people come to terms with their own grief and their own issues and their spirituality, I think that it's like the concentric circles in a pond, and it starts to influence more people. Because if history's taught us anything, bad times will come to an end, but we can't just sit here and wait for it. We've got to do what we can to help that.
Yeah. And this is really why today is so exciting and why we're taking folks' calls, because this is a new action and in a world, right? This is a new action, and all of us are being called to that. We're being called to take new action with our network. And this guidance you and I talked about in the last show, the guidance around it is almost this new knowing. And I know the callers calling in today, they have the knowing. But sometimes if you have the knowing, you just need a little bit more packaging to do something with it, right? I want to go to the phones. Let's take our first caller because we had a whole lot to talk about. And I'm going to just kick it back to Mr. Benny.
All right, we'll take Cynthia holding patiently from Chicago. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
Hi. How's the Chicago pizza?
It's wonderful.
It is.
Wonderful.
How can we help you today?
Well, I was, I just thought I saw that Mark advertised on his Facebook page that he was doing readings today, and that's why I called in. It really didn't have.
That's okay.
I lost my brother. I lost my brother last year, very unexpectedly, and I just had.
All right. Well, let's see if I can get him to step forward for you. Okay. And you got to realize, Cynthia, sometimes we'll get a spirit coming through. The first one to come through may not be the person that you expected. It could be somebody else. All right. So let me see. All right. Well, there is a male energy coming through, and oh my gosh. Okay. What I'm feeling is I can't breathe, can't breathe, can't breathe. I'm getting this rapid, shallow breathing. The weird thing is I feel like this massive impact right into my sternum, between the middle of my rib cage, and I feel like this whole collapsing sensation along my diaphragm and in my chest. And I'm also getting this nauseated sensation, which indicates there could have been something going on with his GI tract, but this feels like it hit me like a ton of bricks. When I say me, I mean him, because he's transferring this to me. I'm also getting shooting pains down my back. But what he's telling me is it hit him so quick, he felt it for not even 3 seconds. Does this make any sense to you?
Yeah, I'm sure it probably does, but we never knew what happened to him. So.
Okay, well, I'm talking about his actual cause of death. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, I'm feeling massive impact to my sternum, my rib cage, my diaphragm. I feel it collapsing there, like going into complete cardiopulmonary failure, like within seconds. Okay, that's all right.
We didn't know what happened to him. We weren't able to have an autopsy done on him because he was found several weeks after he passed away, and there was really nothing left of him by the time they found him to be able to do an autopsy.
Not a problem. Understand. But his message for you is that he didn't feel it. Okay. I mean, he felt like 3 seconds worth, and that it was over very, very quickly. He's also telling me that, wow. And of course, this could be said of most people who've lost a loved one, but that he said that you haven't had a moment's rest, and that you keep searching for justice and for answers, but the door keeps getting slammed in your face. And he realizes and wants to acknowledge how, like, you're at your wit's end with all this. And he's telling me to convey to you that this was his time to leave. And even though you don't want to accept not his passing, but the cause, and it seems like the indifference by the authorities, he said that you have to let it go. You have to let it go. And I'm sure that's not probably the message that you wanted to hear, but that's what he's conveying to me. Hey, what's look, I know everybody, or not everybody, a lot of people like cheeseburgers, but was there something about him and cheeseburgers? Or you and cheeseburger? Because all of a sudden I'm like, I feel like I just walked into this huge grill and there's these incredible cheeseburgers everywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How does that make sense?
He loves cheeseburgers. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm also hearing the Jimmy Buffett song "Cheeseburger in Paradise." Oh, well, that's kind of apropos. If he loved cheeseburgers, he's letting you know that he's in he's in the higher frequency of the other side. So okay. I'm hearing Jimmy Buffett singing "Cheeseburger in Paradise." Wow, what a nice. He's a nice guy. Okay, and he said that. Okay, are you getting some tingling and numbness in your left foot?
Right now, or just
in general?
I'm getting it all over my whole body right now as you're talking to me. But he's conveying this information about you. Okay. Yeah. And he's telling me that it's more than nerve impingement. And I know earlier I had a caller and there was an issue with sugar, but I'm getting this sugar issue with you. So this could be a diabetes related. And I'm getting this weird metallic taste in my mouth. Are you prescribed any type of medications now, or are you supposed to be on medication? Okay. No, I'm not. Mm-mm.
All right. So you need to make an appointment with a doctor to get some blood work, and you need them to do a whole a blood sugar analysis on you, because this is what I call spirit intervention. Okay, Pat, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I do. Cynthia, thank you for calling in. I really feel for you. I know what it's like to lose someone and not have answers. At least that was the case with my mom for almost 3 decades. I want to share something with you if you're open.
Sure.
There's something you could do to help usher the energy of this. And you could do it alone, or you can involve your family. When we lose people, and it's like you described, when you found them, there was nothing left, right?
Yeah.
That's the way you described it. So what we need to do is we need to create a new ritual. We need to create a different ending image for you. And I don't know if you've done this before, but this is what I'm called to ask you about. It requires you to take a moment and create a ceremony and to create imagery of his wholeness, all of him. Not the last memory. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, hamburgers, hot dogs. I don't know why I'm talking about tobacco snuff. I don't know if he chewed tobacco. I don't know what that's about. But it's time for you to bring the appropriate people together, if not yourself, and create something outdoors. Some kind of no less than 1 hour of honoring him outdoors in his wholeness, right?
Okay.
A larger than life type. Is that him? Was he a larger than life type?
He was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because when you said that, the cheeseburger in paradise is making a lot more sense now.
Yeah. They want you to really celebrate their larger than life energy, right?
Okay.
But your memory of that last scene will stop you from doing that. So I'm really asking you to create something. And I don't care if you do pile high cheeseburgers from your favorite cheeseburger place, or if he was a grilling guy. Was he a grilling guy? Did he do grilling?
He did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
What's the barbecue he did? What is the barbecue thing he did?
What do you mean?
What did he barbecue? What did he grill?
Oh, he liked steaks and pork chops.
Yeah, pork. I got the pork. I just thought pig.
And cheese.
Yeah, cheeseburger and pig. So this is what you got to do. You got to create this energy so that this energy movement and flow, when it flows, is not about your last memory of what you saw, because that's not how he lived and that's not how he left.
Okay.
Okay. Plan it, do it, eat the burgers, grill the pork, whatever you're going to do. Remember, larger than life guy needs a larger than life celebration. That's my 2 cents on that.
And, you know, and I'm not being flippant when I say this, you definitely need to play that song, Cheeseburger in Paradise, because that came through loud and clear. And that could also be a trigger for a name like Jimmy as well. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Our condolences, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Had to do the same thing with my mom. Because I knew my mom's death was something.
Yeah.
Big secret in the family, by the way. And it wasn't until my dad died in like 1986, but I knew something was not right. I watched my sister's life deteriorate. And my stepmom, Doris, Bingo Doris with the jelly beans, she saved the letters from my mom after her first suicide attempt from Bellevue, because that's what they did. They locked you up, they drugged you up, but she saved my mom's letters. And when my dad died, she gave them to me. And then I got to unravel the mystery. So I had to create a different ceremony for her, even if it was like, I don't know, like 50 years later, right?
Right.
This is how we're going to roll today. We're talking about near-death experiences. We're taking your calls. We're answering your questions. I want to ask you before we go to break. There's an energy, Mark. This is the only words I have for it, but there's an energy. I'm going to call it a collective energy. Maybe it's not global. Maybe it's more residential. How do you describe that energy, and what spirit messages are trying to get to us?
I call the other side the collective consciousness. And I know that Carl Jung talked about the collective unconsciousness. That's not what we're talking about. The collective consciousness is, think of your soul as a drop of water. And when we die, that drop of water plunges into the eternal energy that is the other side. And that's why when spirits come through, they can give us all sorts of information that far exceeded the scope of anything they knew here, because spirits are energy linked to other spirits, linked to other spirits. So when we do a reading for somebody, let's say like the last caller, Cynthia, her collective, the spirits connected with her will disconnect, or they're still connected, but they'll come forward. And so look at it this way: your people coming through are like a chorus. And so the first spirit to step forward is like the lead singer, but he or she is still harmonizing with the rest of the chorus. So that's how I explain this. But that's a very good description. It's an energy, and we're just getting your collective of spirits, which are still interlinked with the more infinite, or the infinite collective consciousness.
Well, this is what we're talking about today. We're going to take a short break, Mark. But before we do, would you tell folks, one, how to get copies of the book, how to work with you, how to get ready for an unusual holiday right now?
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want to share this, please get a hold of Mark and get a gift certificate for somebody you love, because we have never been through a holiday like this.
No.
Not in this lifetime. We don't even know what we don't know. But I didn't even know what to tell my friend who doesn't know what to do about Halloween for her child. I mean, this is unprecedented. And I'm just saying to everybody, we don't want you to have to do it alone. So Mark, how do people do all of that?
Please visit my website, evidenceofeternity.com. And for listeners of the Dr. Pat Show, you got to put in the request form for a reading, mention Dr. Pat, and you'll be qualified for a reduction in the fee on a reading. And you can sign up for my newsletter and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also you can find out about my books, Never Letting Go and Evidence of Eternity, through my website, evidenceofeternity.com.
I love it. When we come back, we're going to go back to the phones, Mr. Benny and David. So when we come back, we're going to do our best to get everybody in, because this is for you. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Mark Anthony, my very special guest, near-death experience and deathbed visions, part 2. We are here with Mark. And for those of you out there, Mark, one more time, website and how they can work with you, and then we'll go right to the phones.
evidenceofeternity.com. And if you mention the Dr. Pat Show, if you apply for a reading, you're qualified for a reduced fee reading. And you can sign up for all my social media and order my books at evidenceofeternity.com.
Yeah, you can even just type in Dr. P. That will be good enough to get it done.
That'll work.
That'll work. Okay. I want to hop over to the phones, Mr. Benny. What do you think? Let's do it.
All right, sounds like a plan. We'll take Barbara, who's been waiting patiently, calling in from Edmonds area. That's in Washington State. So, Barbara, hello.
Hey, Barbara.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Pat, Mark. We talked before.
Hey, Barbara.
How can we help you? Yeah.
So I try to never, ever, ever act out of fear, but things are shutting down here so much. I own a bridal boutique. 2 other bridal boutiques have just closed their doors. And I'm trying to plan my own wedding, and I feel lost. And I wonder if parents on the other side have any insight for me. I'm fighting. I'm doing the best I can to keep my doors open.
Well, let me see who wants to come through and see if, okay, whoa, wow. Your mom on the other side, the reason I'm saying this is there's a mom energy or a female on what would be the mother generation coming through. And does that make any sense?
So whether it's my grandmother whom...
All right, hold on. And I don't mean to interrupt. Let me get some facts and information from the spirit, then we can identify her. Okay, so female energy coming through, very mom-like vibe going on with her. And with her passing, prior to her death, I'm getting this dizzy disorientation going on. So there was something disrupting her mental clarity and lucidity. I'm also getting like coming in and out of consciousness and in and out of clarity. This could be like she could have been on heavy medications for pain, but this could also be an indicator of some type of dementia. The other thing that I'm getting is that with her passing, I'm feeling lungs filling up with fluid. Now, that could be COPD, emphysema, but it has a very strong feeling of congestive heart failure because it feels like it was a steady progression. And then it got to the point where she essentially went into, I don't even want to call it cardiac arrest, which is the technical term. It's more like cardiac atrophy. And the other issue is, oh my goodness, my liver is really, really painful. So to recap, this lady was having issues with her lungs, with her mental clarity, feels like congestive heart failure, but it could also be some other disease, which essentially got her heart to stop. And then there's sensitivity going on with her liver as well. Does any of this resonate with you?
I believe that's my fiance's mother.
Okay. All right. So the potential mother-in-law, interesting. That's why I felt there was a woman on the mother level. Let's see what she's saying. First off, she likes you. Okay. She likes you. She said that we would have been good friends. She said the 2 of us could sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk for hours. Did you know she was a smoker grappling with quitting smoking, or is there something with you with trying to quit smoking? Because there's a big issue of quitting smoking.
Not me. I know that there was a lot of smoking in the family.
Okay, we'll go. All right. So that's, yeah, it's one of those identifiers. Who's the one that likes the little dogs? Little dogs.
On their side, they had dogs. I know they had little Yorkies at one point, but
yeah, that's
I
a yes.
Little
okay.
dogs.
All right, so see, you both have the little dogs. So these are all identifiers. Let's see where she's going with this. Okay, so your question is, how do you hang in there? She said that, I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be rough sailing. She said, but you will get through. And by, looks like mid-June to early July of 2021, she said the storm will have passed. But between now and then, she said that you just have to be in survival mode. All right. She wants to talk about, okay, It's her son that you're marrying.
Yes, his name's also Mark.
Okay, hold on. Is he type A blood?
He might be. I don't know. I know I'm not.
Okay, well, she's talking about type A blood. All right. Let's see where she's going with this one. Interesting. Does he have any type of allergies, like with bee stings or insects? She's talking about him and some type of. Go ahead.
He's allergic to antihistamines.
There we go. Okay, the antihistamine. Interesting, because the reason I was asking about the bee stings is because while I was seeing bees, and I was also getting Benadryl. Okay, so she said that he's under a lot of stress too right now, and he's trying not to show it because he's really worried. He wants to make everything perfect for you. And she said, that's my son. He always cares about everyone more than he cares about himself. And he's afraid that he's going to disappoint you. And what she's saying is the two of you, and you already know this, but she's reiterating it. You just need to scale back, scale down, scale back, scale down. Okay. And she said, you will persevere and you will get through this. She's also worried about her son because I'm getting these pounding headaches. Does he get a lot of headaches, or is he prone to migraines? Because I'm getting like this bam, 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 this throbbing sensation.
He does get headaches. And I think it's just the stress.
Yeah.
He tries to make the world right. And so do I.
Yeah, well, you guys are nice people. I mean, you're getting great accolades from the other side. But basically, what your mother-in-law is telling me, who's Janet? She keeps talking about Janet. Janet could be somebody in this world or on the other side, but she keeps talking about Janet. And if it doesn't resonate right away, don't worry about it, because usually afterwards it will. What she's telling me is stop. You and her son need to try to stop impressing each other and just realize you love each other and just take it easy. Take it easy, and you will persevere. Okay, Pat, do you have anything on this?
I do. First of all, let me acknowledge your courage and honesty right out of the gate for looking at your passion, your purpose, your heartstream, and your business in Edmonds. And I want to say that. The answer that I'm getting is you are a wealth of knowledge. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're considered an expert. Is that correct?
Yes.
There is a service that I think you are being called to offer, because I don't know if you know this or not. We just went through Jessica's wedding, and there was so many, I don't even know what I don't know. Am I even going to be able to get married? How am I going to make it work? I don't know if you know this, but people are still getting married all over the world. They need experts. They don't know how to navigate. They don't know how to maneuver. They don't even know what to wear. They don't know what they don't know. And what I just want to leave you with, because I don't have exact information about your business, but my take is you need to step into your full power as an expert in this arena and offer your services and get paid well. Because people want to get married.
Yeah.
And they don't want it messed up. They don't want their weddings messed up. And I went through this with Jessica in Montana. And if it wasn't for an entire army of family that all pitched in and but not everybody's got an army of family. You need to help people and become part of their family. So I would suggest you look into that as an offshoot, an extension of your business, and establish yourself as an expert and get yourself on social media and put that new shingle up. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're an expert. You got to own it.
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, she's so needed. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you have any idea what people are going through in this arena?
But people have to realize, people got married during World War II, even in occupied countries. and that eventually this pandemic will subside, you know.
Oh my
So the hard part is, like you said, we've never been through holidays like this. I mean, how do you tell little kids you can't go trick-or-treating?
Oh,
And Christmas is already a dilemma in my family. We're an Italian family. We want to all get together and eat and all this, and we're all like, how are we going to do this? It's tough.
it is tough. And, I'm glad I snatched up Linda and she's out here. But I'm telling you, there's something she can do. So let me give you an example. This idea just popped in, and I hope she's still listening. When you go to a wedding, you still have to wear masks if you're in Washington State. She's in Washington State, but all over the world. And I wonder what a bridal mask looks like.
Lace, I would guess. You
No
have the
kidding.
mask has some lace on it.
Stevie Nicks, leather and lace, sister. All right, let's go. I had sequins on I had a shiny mask. I hope Linda can dig out my mask, and I'll show you the mask I wore for Jessica's. Benny, let's go to the phones.
Sure, we'll take now Veronica calling in from the New York area, and she is there. So hello, Veronica.
Hi, Veronica.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Pat.
Great to have you. How can we help you?
I wondered if my father or mother had any messages about my legal situation or advice.
Hold on, Veronica. I'm having a difficult time understanding you. It's just not coming through clearly on my end. Try that again, please.
I wondered if my father or mother had any advice about my legal situation or anything to say about the person that caused me problems.
Well, let's see what we get. Okay. All right. Male energy coming through, and wow, I'm getting electrical shocks going right through my body, which is indicating that his passing was either abrupt or had a neurological component to it, which could be a stroke. Stroke, also some type of seizure, convulsive component to it. And yeah, I'm getting definitely the seizure or stroke. Does this make any sense to you?
I thought I had pneumonia.
Well, all right, it may not be your dad that's communicating. I'm getting a male energy coming through, getting electrical sensation, which is a neurological component. And the reason I'm saying stroke is I'm getting like a flash in my head, which would indicate something there. Is there a male connected to you, either on the father or grandfather level, which may have passed through a stroke or some type of seizure or convulsion?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was his relationship to you?
I think you're talking about my uncle.
Okay, you got to speak clearly. I can barely hear you.
Yeah, her uncle. So I think she talked about her uncle.
Okay. All right. So he's the one that wants to field these questions right now. Hold on. He said the best thing you can do is build a wall around yourself. Now, certainly he doesn't mean with actual bricks. He said that you have to make yourself put as much of a barrier between you and this entire situation as possible. He's not exactly thrilled with the state of your legal care. He said that the attorney you have or your legal care seems to be somewhat low-key, non-responsive, and really kind of lackluster. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Okay. He said, fire that. I'm not going to say on the air. Fire that particular individual and get someone that's got some shark teeth. Shark, S-H-A-R-K teeth. Wow. Okay. You need a much more competent, much more aggressive attorney. He also said that the adjutant, the person that's causing all those legal problems, not only is going at you financially, but also has the ability to punch your emotional and psychological buttons and cause you all sorts of turmoil. And the problem is you buy into it. That's why you have to build the walls around yourself emotionally. And big part of your defense is total indifference to that person so that they no longer have power over you. The problem with you, this is what he's telling me, you're giving this person power by accepting, emotionalizing, personalizing all of these devious little attacks. And also you got to block this person on social media. You got to block this person on your phone. You've got to block this person out of your life. Who's Ted or Ed? Ted or Ed? Ted or Ed? Could be Teddy, Eddie, be Freddie, but I'm getting like a Ted or an Ed.
My lawyer's name was John, and the con man's name was Randy.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
Your lawyer's name was Tom or Dom?
John.
Don, D-O-N.
Now I'm getting like a Teddy, Eddie. It's like the E-D-D-Y sound.
Yeah.
Eddie,
and,
Teddy,
and
Freddie.
you know the person that is abusing you, correct? You know the name of that person.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a Randy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is good. Yep. Do you understand what Mark is saying to you?
He's telling me just to kind of ignore them and not give them the satisfaction. Just keep ignoring them, sending me bills when they're conflict of interest and over, price gouge me.
Yeah. What Mark is basically saying, I'm going to give you my translation because Mark worked with spirit, but the hit I'm getting is one, it's not time for milk toast. I don't know what that means, but it's really time for you to stand your ground. You deserve not to be abused. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Do you believe you deserve not to be abused?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe you deserve the best attorney to represent you?
Yeah.
Do you believe you need an attorney that understands you?
Yeah.
Then if you believe all that, I'm going to say something woman to woman. Let me get ready for this. Are you ready? You might want to write this down.
I'm ready.
Women, attorneys, understand abuse to women. You feel me on that?
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Women that I've had to hire attorneys, similar situation as you, they get just as fired up about their clients that are either abused, psychologically taunted, whatever that is going on, and you don't have to go into that detail.
Okay.
But you're not going to have to draw your attorney a map. You want to say, get it to stop. That's what we're saying.
You know what? Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You need a really mean female attorney. And I'm not being facetious, but that's a shark essay. Let me tell you, sharks come
I got Pitbull.
too.
I got Pitbull. Pitbull was like the image.
Yeah.
Do you know people to reach out to and get? Were you thinking about making that change before you called? I'm just curious.
Yes, I actually had somebody looking into it, but they had too many cases. Mine was too complicated.
All right, let me tell you something. This is that's lawyer talk for they don't want your case, find somebody else.
Yeah. Was it a man or a woman?
I have too many cases. Let me tell you something.
Man or woman?
Yeah.
Did you approach a man or woman?
I was a lady.
Yeah. There is somebody for you. Okay. But you need to contact them directly. I know this is hard. This is not easy. I'm telling you, I know Mark's a lawyer, but when I had to look for a lawyer, I tried to get everybody in the book to call the lawyer for me because I didn't really want to talk to him. But this is you reaching out to them. And you're going to get the kind of business lawyer, call center, the whole thing. Don't give up. Your life depends on it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I can't move on until this is over with. It's been going on for 4 years.
Oh,
no, that's 4 years too long. Okay. So look, there's a Ruth Bader Ginsburg out there for you. Think in those contexts. She may have only been like 5'1" or 2.
Right.
And she changed the world. So you need that pit bull, that shark. You need the really, really tough lawyer that's going to understand this abuse because you don't deserve to be treated like that. And any man that abuses a woman, can I say something? Okay. Real men don't abuse women. Okay. That's not a real man. That's rhymes with wussy. Okay.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Nice cover.
All right, so I'm going to give you something physical to do if you're open to it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I want you to get some rose water, rose, R-O-S-E, water. You can order it online. Okay. I don't care where you get it from, rose water. And I want you to put it in a bottle. Then what I want you to do is I want you to go outside of your house, apartment, wherever you are, and I want you to douse each corner. On the outside, douse each corner, on the ground, the foundation, rose water. When you come in your house, I want you to go in every corner of your house, especially the bedroom. I don't know why I'm getting the bedroom. Every corner of your house, and I want you to douse the bottom and the top, rose water.
Okay.
Okay. And when you do that, every time you spray the rose water, I want you to create a mantra, something. I release your energy to something sweeter. I release your energy for something sweeter. Don't even say his name. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do it 2 times a week for a month.
Okay. I'll write it down.
Do you think you could do that?
I can. I'll do anything. I just want it over.
Yep, it's over. It's over. I know it's over. Okay. The universe is just waiting for you to put the final touches on it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Mark, this is awesome. Do we have time for one short call-in? I think we have one more we might be able to take. Mark, what do you think?
Let's do it.
Do it, Benny.
Kathy from Seattle. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Hi,
Hi.
Kathy. How can we help you?
I just wanted to know if there was anyone that had any messages for me from the other side.
Okay, got a female energy coming through, and she was having a lot of issues with her renal gland, in other words, her kidneys. She a lot of renal failure, huge component with her passing. I'm also getting a nauseated sensation, which is indicating that she was having difficulty eating and or holding down food prior to passing. This could also be a cancer indicator. So to recap, we have a female coming through connected to you, possibly cancerous condition, definitely not eating or holding down food toward the end, and renal failure with, in other words, kidney problems. Does this make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay. She's talking about you and your hearing. But the thing is, it doesn't seem like hearing as in hearing deficit. She says that you're not listening lately. Okay. And let me see where she's going with this. She said you're listening to some bad financial advice right now, and that she wants you to hold position where you are with finances, and there's like, I don't know if you're trying to shift finances or go into some type of new business venture. And she's like, I see her like she's riding a stagecoach and she's pulling the horses going, whoa, like right there, like hold your horses. And yeah, I just get this huge financial message. Does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to be very, very cautious, very, very prudent. She says you're not listening, and she says, how? It feels like you're putting your trust in the wrong person when it comes to this financial matter. So let's be very, very cautious with that. And she just handed me a ruby. Rubies are the birthstone for the month of July. This could indicate a significant birth, death, anniversary, or event connected to you or someone close to you or this person on the other side communicating that occurred within the month of July. And the fascinating thing with ruby could also be a trigger for a name like Rudy or Ruby or possibly Julie because of July, unless there's a piece of jewelry of significance to you with a ruby in it. But boy, the ruby is glowing bright.
So can I just jump in? Because I got about a minute.
I don't know.
And it'll take time. It'll hit you later on. Trust me.
Jump in then. I think you
Okay.
Mark. I think you're good with Mark. What do you think? How do you feel about what Mark said to you?
Hello?
Hey, Pat, you need to turn up your microphone there, sweetheart. I think it kind of dipped on you.
Yeah, I'm not here, Dr. Pat, at all. I can barely hear.
No, that's what spirit is saying.
Oh, that'll work too.
Oh, the listening issue.
Mm.
Ooh, the listening issue. Holy moly. Okay, if that doesn't make sense to you, I don't know what will.
Spirit is saying
There she is.
nothing for Pat to add.
Spirit is saying what?
There's nothing else that she needs to add. In other words, it's the listening issue, the trust issue. And with the thing with the ruby and the possible message in July, after the reading, I call that period of time the unfolding, and it can take hours, days, weeks, and even longer for the full impact of a reading to unfold. In other words, to make sense to you. So just because you don't get it now, if you don't get it, don't sweat it, all right? Just make a note of that, and it'll occur to you later on. But there's something about the month of July, and this could be births, deaths, anniversaries, or events connected to you, someone close to you, or the person communicating. It could also be something with a piece of jewelry with a ruby in it, or, you know, like I said, it could be a trigger for the name like Ruby or Rudy or Julie because of July. So we'll leave that with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
God bless. You take care.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, Mark, thank you so much. What a great show. And we're going to be letting folks know about the Psychic and the Doc. It's going to be a show that you and I do every week. It's going to be on Transformation Talk Radio. I believe we're doing it at 5 p.m. I still am waiting for get final guidance from Spirit exactly when we're doing it. Again, Mark, thank you for today. What's your personal message? And let folks know how they can work with you directly. And thanks to all our listeners, all our callers, all our Facebook folks, Benny and David. What do you want to leave us with here, Mark?
If anyone wants to find out about the work that I do and also the upcoming show, The Psychic and the Doc, visit my website, evidenceofeternity.com, or visit thedrpatshow.com.
Yeah, and for all of you out there, we're going to do lots more of this, but remember one thing. It's hard to remember. We all have everything we need right inside, and it's that opening that allows Spirit to connect with us, to guide us, and to look out for us. We'll see you all next time.